brightness of my screen. There we go. I hope everyone's doing good. I just got back from church. I'm going to pull up some reading for us. And while I pull up some reading for us, I'm going to do some reading from the Ascetical Homilies of St. Isaac the Syrian. I've been reading some of these for us, and we've made it to Homily 5. It's amazing, even reading these books slowly, how much I enjoy reading them. I was never much of a reader. I guess when I was a little tot, I tried to write some books because I was really interested in salmon. And then kind of some bad teachers killed that wanting to write inside me. And for a long time, I think I subconsciously rebelled and just didn't want to read any books anymore. I didn't have any interest in it at all because it seemed that everyone that read a lot of books was kind of a mean person. But then later on in my life, I started to find enjoyment in reading again. And when I started reading these books about orthodoxy, they helped me so much that it just ended up being one book right after the other. Homily 5 of St. Isaac the Syrian, his ascetical homilies. God has conferred much honor upon men with the twofold instruction which he has given them. And from every quarter he has opened a door to enable them to enter into saving knowledge. Ask from nature a true witness concerning yourself, and you will not go astray. Yet even if you turn aside from thence, learn from that second witness, and it will place you on the path from which you wandered. A distracted heart cannot avoid forgetfulness, and wisdom does not open her door before it. He who is enabled to understand with exact knowledge what degree of equality the end of all men brings needs no other teacher for renouncing life's affairs. The first book given by God to rational beings was the nature of created things, but the instruction set down in writing was added for the transgression. Whoever does not voluntarily withdraw himself from the causes of the passions is involuntarily drawn away by sin. These are the causes of sin: wine, women, riches, and robust health of body. Not that by their nature these things are sins, but that nature readily inclines toward the sinful passions on their account. And for this reason, a man must guard himself against them with great care. If you bear your weakness constantly in mind, you will not overstep the bounds of caution. With men, poverty is something loathsome, but with God, much more so, is a soul whose heart is proud and whose mind is scornful. With men, wealth is honored, but with God, the soul that has come to humility. It's almost like two polar opposites. All the things that we try to cling to in this life, when we live for our fleshly selves, draws us to destruction, to permanent destruction. And those that we kill ourselves to, all these things of the world that draw us away, like he said, whoever does not voluntarily withdraw himself from the causes of the passions is involuntarily drawn away by sin. These are the causes of sin: wine, women, riches, and robust health of body. Not that by their nature these things are sins, but that nature readily inclines toward the sinful passions on their account. It wasn't until later on in my life that I realized that my interaction was with women, by trying to have a girlfriend, trying to date people, the things that I was doing was totally wrong. Instead of just trying to have someone to be with, to have someone to live with. I should have first been using my discernment and trying to find someone that believed in God, who had a closer relationship with God than me. So, men, here's a lesson in this. Don't pick a woman, don't date a woman, don't be in a relationship, don't live with any other woman unless you're married to her. Don't disrespect her by having intercourse with her before you're married. Don't disrespect her by getting drunk, by using tobacco, by smoking marijuana, or any other of these things. But make sure that she has a spiritual father first. Make sure she goes to church. Make sure she has mothers and sisters that lead her in the church. Or else you'll curse yourself. I promise you that. It's unavoidable. If you try to have a relationship, if you want to have a marriage someday, if you don't do it the right way, if you don't start off right, it's never going to become right. Evil begets evil. Wrongfulness begets wrongfulness. You have to start out right, or it's doomed to fail. And I promise you it will. Learn from my failures. Learn from the lessons of the Holy Fathers. They aren't telling you these things because they want to take something away from you. They're telling you these teachings because they want to prevent you from punishing yourself, from harming yourself. You need to look at the Bible and all the lives of the Desert Fathers and the saints as a textbook of how not to harm yourself. Look at it as a way to not suffer and be poisoned and be destroyed, even though you will suffer a little bit anyway. But the sufferings that we have in our lives as Christians are because that we need correction. And these were like guardrails, as it were, to keep us on the narrow path. Whoever does not voluntarily withdraw himself from the causes of the passions is involuntarily drawn away by sin. The devil knows how to do this. He knows how to tempt us, to draw us away from the narrow path. Because if we stay on it, he can't destroy us. We have to realize that the devil is trying to destroy everyone on this world, including the women, including the one you might want to be your girlfriend. With men, poverty is something loathsome, but with God, much more so is a soul whose heart is proud and whose mind is scornful. With man, wealth is honored, but with God, the soul that has come to humility. What's more important, the temporary pursuits of passions in this life? If we're lucky, we have 70 years, 80 years of this life, and then we die. And then we have all eternity to live in the choice that we made. We either learn humility, compassion, forgiveness, love, long-suffering, or we can have the desires of the flesh with no guarantee that we'll make it through the next day, but with a guarantee that we will die in our sins much sooner than we think. Whenever you wish to make a beginning in some good work, first prepare yourself for the temptations that will come upon you, and do not doubt the truth, for it is the enemy's custom, whenever he sees a man beginning a good mode of life with fervent faith, to confront him with diverse and fearful temptations, so that he should be afraid, his good intentions should be chilled, and he should lack the fervor to undertake that God-pleasing work. It's not that our adversary has such power, for then no one could ever do good, but God concedes it to him, as we have learned with the righteous Job. Therefore, prepare yourself manfully to encounter the temptations that are brought against the virtues, and then begin to practice them. For if you have not prepared yourself beforehand to meet temptations, then refrain from practicing the virtues. The man who doubts that God is his helper in good work is put to flight by his own shadow. He starves at a time of prosperity and plenty, and in a period of calm, his shipwreck will be severe. But a man whose confidence is in God is stout of heart. His worth is made manifest to all men, and his praise is before the face of his enemies. God's commandments excel all the treasuries of the world, and he who acquires his laws in his heart finds the Lord within them. The man who always goes to bed with ruination upon God has gained him as his The man who goes to bed with rumination upon God has gained him as his chamberlain, and he who desires the fulfillment of God's will have the angels of heaven as his guide. A man who fears sins will traverse a terrible passage without stumbling, and at a time of darkness he will find light before him and within himself. The Lord carefully watches the steps of the man who fears sins, and God's mercy forestalls him when he slips. A man who considers his transgressions to be slight falls into worse sins than he formerly committed, and he will pay his penalty sevenfold. Sow your alms in humility, and you will reap mercy at the judgment. By those means whereby you have lost goods, by the same you will gain them back. You owe God a penny, and he will not accept a pearl from you in its place. Having lost chastity, do not allow fornication to remain in its place, and give alms because of it. God will not accept them, for in place of sanctification he requires sanctification. Although you wrong not the poor, do not allow an unjust possession to remain in its place. You fast from bread, do not leave iniquity in its place and struggle with some other thing. Greed is uprooted by mercy and privation. You have left the plant in its place, and do you struggle with something else? St. Ephraim said, in summertime do not struggle against the scorching heat in winter clothing. Let each man reap by means that oppose the iniquity he has sown. Every disease is cured with its own remedies. What they're saying is every passion has its corresponding virtue. And if you want to overcome that passion, you have to practice the virtue that corresponds to it. And you who are overcome by envy, why do you battle against sleep? While the transgression is still small and blossoming, pluck it up before it spreads and covers the field. Do not be negligent when your fault seems slight to you, for later you will find it an inhuman master, and it will be running before it you will be running before it like a shackled slave. But a man who fights against a passion from the start will soon subdue it. He who is able to suffer wrong with joy, though having means at hand to rebuff it, has consciously received from God the consolation of his faith. The man who endures accusations against himself with humility has arrived at perfection, and he is marveled at by the holy angels. For there is no other virtue so great and so hard to achieve. Do not believe yourself to be strong until you are tempted and find yourself superior to change. In this matter, test yourself in everything. Acquire a right faith in yourself so that you may trample down your enemies. Keep your mind lowly and place no confidence in your strength, lest you be given over to the frailty of your nature. And then from your own fall, you will learn your own weakness. Nor should you trust in your knowledge, lest you be found amidst subtle snares and you become entangled. Have a meek tongue, and dishonor will never encounter you. Acquire sweet lips, and you will have all men as your friends. Never boast of your labors with your tongue, lest you be put to shame. In each matter about which a man boasts himself, God permits that he change, so that he should be humbled and learn humility. This is why you must surrender all things to God's foreknowledge, and not believe that there is anything in this life unchanging. Acting in this manner, your eye will always be lifted to God, for God's protection and providence encircles all men. Yet they are not seen except by those who have cleansed themselves from sin and continually keep their attention on God. and on him alone. But God's providence is especially apparent to whom, when they enter into a great trial on behalf of the truth, for then they perceive it as if seeing it with their bodily eyes, each man in proportion to the magnitude of the temptation which befalls him, and according to the cause thereof. This is the case in order that providence might anoint its champions to have courage in this manner, as with Jacob and Jesus of Navi, and the three children, and Peter, and the rest of the saints to whom it appeared in human form, giving them confidence and confirming them in godliness. That was from the Ascetical Homilies of St. Isaac the Syrian. I highly recommend that book. For those of you starting out in Orthodoxy or trying to learn about Orthodoxy, which is the true church from the time of the disciples, that's why I'm a part of it. Why would I want to get lost in the branches of a tree when I could stay firmly planted in the roots? So the next reading that I'm going to read for us, pulling up right now, Passion, 2 hours before the cross that turned the soul upside down, by priest Leonid Bartkov. There are moments in the annual cycle of divine services that do not lend themselves to rational explanation. You may be tired after a working week, irritated and absent-minded. You come to church thinking, I'll stand for half an hour and go, but an hour passes and you stand. You stand with a candle, look at the crucifixion, and feel something melting inside. This is passion. Already on the next Sunday at the beginning of Great Lent, when strength is already running out, and Pascha is still far away, the church offers us a unique opportunity to touch the mystery of Golgotha, not speculatively, not through books, but with all your heart, with all your tired flesh. What do we know about passion? The word passion came to us from Latin and means suffering. For the first time, the service appeared in the For the first time, the service appeared in the 17th century in the southwest of Russia in Kiev metropolitan Petro Mohila, a man of tremendous education and love for the beauty of liturgical services, composed a sequence that combined orthodox depth with emotional expressiveness. The church has always known that a person needs not only to understand dogmas with his mind, but also to experience the gospel with his heart. It formed the Passion as a Lenten Vespers with an akathist to the Passion of Christ. But the main thing in it is the reading of the gospel. Imagine a cross is erected in the middle of the church. The choir sings the amazing hymns. To thee who are clothed with light as with a robe. These are the stichera for the burial of Christ, which are usually heard at Matins on Great Saturday. And then the priest comes out with the gospel and reads chapter by chapter about the sufferings of the Savior. During Great Lent, the Passion is served 4 times, and each time one of the 4 Gospels is read: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. We go through the sufferings of Christ sequentially, as if living them together with him. Why do we need it today? Ask yourself an honest question. Do you cry often, not from resentment, not from self-pity, but from something lofty? The modern world has hardened our hearts. We have learned to defend ourselves with cynicism, irony, and indifference. We are afraid to show feelings because it makes us vulnerable. This is why there's so much corruption in American society, because men have been trained to be evil. And it's by design that the system teaches these children, beginning in the youngest years of school, to be cynical and indifferent to each other, to not show their feelings, to not have love in their hearts and kindness. But on Passion, the armor is busting at the seams when you hear how the apostles flee, how Peter denies, how Pilate washes his hands, how the soldiers mock the King of the world. It is impossible to remain stone because all this is happening because of you, because of my sins, because of yours. The Holy Fathers say, know your sin and you will know God. Passion gives us this knowledge, not the abstract knowledge that I am a sinner, but a concrete, piercing understanding of the price with which my salvation was bought. What do people pray for on the Passion? The Akathist to the Passion of Christ, which is read at this service, is an amazing poetic text. In this text, we give thanks to the instruments of execution, nails, spears, reeds, thorns, because salvation came through them. But there are also lines in this Akathist that make our hearts sink. We hear an appeal to the soul, and we understand it is I who am now betraying Christ. Every time I consciously sin, I drive nails again and again. Why isn't this a depressing worship? You know, sometimes they ask, Father, why plunge into this melancholy? Life is as hard as it is. But passion is not melancholy. This is gratitude. When someone dies for you, you cannot rejoice in noisy joy. You stand in silence. But in the silence, love is born. At the end of the service, everyone approaches the cross. We make prostrations, venerate the crucifixion, and depart in peace. And there is an amazing silence in my soul, because where the cross is, there is the resurrection. We already know how this story will end. We know that the Passion will be followed by Easter, and this hope warms us even in the darkest hours. Who should definitely come to Pascha? Those who are tired, those who are disappointed in their spiritual life, those who think God has abandoned them, those who do not feel anything in prayer. Come and just stand. The service of Pascha, rather. Come and just stand. There is no need to squeeze emotions out of yourself. There's no need to cry on purpose. Just look at the cross, listen to the words. Today hangs on a tree who hung the earth on the waters. Today hangs on the tree he who hung the earth on the waters. And if tears come, do not hold them back. These are tears of purification. These are tears of meeting with the living God. A few words for beginners. If you've never been to the Passion, keep in mind the service lasts about 2 hours. Be sure to take the text of the Akathist with you. You can buy it in a candle shop or download it in advance to your phone. This way you can follow the reading and pray meaningfully. And one more thing, do not leave until the very end. The most important thing is in the finale, when everyone sings, Come, let us bless Joseph, with lit candles and slowly approaches the cross. At this point, time stops. You stand before eternity. You stand before love, which turned out to be stronger than death. Great Lent is given to us not for a diet, but so that we learn to love. Passion is a school of love. Here we learn to look to the one who loved us to the end, to the cross, to death, to the grave. Come, wait, be silent, and may God grant that after this service, you will leave the church a little quieter, a little more grateful, and a little more ready to follow Christ wherever he leads. Priest Leonid Bartkov, March 6th, 2026. Thank you, brothers, for listening. I have liturgy in the morning. Service tonight lasted 3.5 hours, I think, something like that. Lots of singing, lots of reading. And I was feeling tired from work myself. But if we make the sacrifice to go anyway, because when we go to church, like my father said last night, taking our time and coming to church and staying for the service, we're sacrificing of ourselves. We're showing God that we love him by giving up our time to him. I love you all, brothers and sisters. Thanks for listening tonight. God bless you, and Lord willing, I'll see you again tomorrow. God bless. Paka paka.